Hey everybody, it's Jason Will. Just want to take a quick second to remind you that my Impact Agent University conference is happening this April 11th and 12th, 2019 in New Orleans, Louisiana. Get your tickets at impactagentuniversity.com and use promo code JASON10 for a 10% discount off your tickets. Ready? Ready to rock and roll? Is that action? All right. Okay.
That's right.
All right.
Absolutely. Go. Go.
Hello everybody, it's Jason Will with
Go.
This is a real estate podcast, but we talk about leadership, personal growth, and becoming the best version of yourself. Leadership, check 1, 2, check 1, 2. Growth, best version of yourself.
Go.
So this is a real estate podcast. All right, so Nick, introduce yourself to the Impact Agent podcast audience.
Yeah, my name's Nick McLean. I'm here in Wenatchee, Washington State, of course, and we're in a small town, and we were talking just before the podcast. It's the Apple capital of the world, so not very many people know where it's at. It's right on the Columbia River, in between Spokane and Seattle, so it's like right smack dab in the middle.
And small. It's very cold where you are right now.
Yeah, it's 25 degrees and 30 inches of snow in the last couple days, right? So it's been kind of crazy. But we have 4 equal seasons. It's 100 degrees in the summer. We're kind of like the playground for the Seattle metro area. You know, we got some cool dynamics where, you know, it's 50,000 people. So we have all the normal real estate dynamics, but we also have like the Seattle market influence for retirees and second homes because we have rivers and lakes and mountains. That's who I am and that's where I live. And, you know, I kind of grew up in this area and did a lot of things before real estate and, you know, started a team, 7 years ago, and there's more to it than that.
Well, let's talk about that because I heard you speak at a John Chiplak Mastermind. We were both in Vegas recently.
Yeah.
And you have this amazing story. You've grown this incredibly successful real estate team, and a lot of it's just through humble, hard work, right? Just rolling up your sleeves. I mean, it seems like you guys have a real blue-collar mentality. But I'd like for you just to kind of take me back to where you started. You know, when you got your real estate license, what were some of the adversities or mindset issues and struggles that you dealt with before you became this mega agent?
Right. So in 2008, I got into real estate. It was March of 2008. And I got in because I was flying for an airline and it shut down. So the investors pulled their money out of the airline. And I was living in Wenatchee. We bought a house. My wife's a teacher here. So it was like pack up, find another job somewhere else and commute, or find another pathway. And I almost dropped out of college to get into real estate. I read a lease purchase book when I was like 20. It was one of those infomercial things. And I was so intrigued with the money side of it. I was like, man, maybe I should just drop out of college and get into real estate. But I decided to become a pilot instead. And so funny things happen, when you lose your job. I don't know if you ever lost a job before, Jason, but
yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. And the funny thing about real estate, we lose our job every day, right? Like you got to earn your job each day, which is kind of funny that, I'm about to tell this story about when I lost my job. So I lost my job for the first time and, I went to bed that night, demoralized, number one. Number two, I didn't even know, I kind of felt like my world was over, turned upside down, and I didn't know what would happen in the morning. Not to sound despair-like, but, I wasn't even feeling like I was going to wake up. And when I woke up, I realized, okay, I'm still here and nothing's changed yet that I can notice, but I got to do something about this. And I thought about that book I read and I got my real estate license and I called a broker that was a family friend. And I think a lot of people listening, this is kind of the thing, buyers and sellers use the first agent they talk to 70% of the time or 60, 70% of the time. Brokers or agents. So in my state, we're all brokers. So agents go with a broker, the first one they talk to, who in the industry. And it's like a family friend.
Right.
It's much different than buyers and sellers. And we should probably interview. We should probably find out who has the best training. We should probably find out who has the best opportunity for growth and the best fit culturally for me, But no, I just went to the broker I knew, and he was a one-man show, independent broker. So, he was up in Chelan, and I actually commuted up there on the bus. I think I talked about that, at the Mastermind. And
right.
Because gas prices went crazy in 2008. They're like $4.50. I couldn't afford it. And so I was commuting up there, and that was the beginning of my career. Just taking the bus, reading books on the way up, showing up, hoping I was going to learn something.
Now, did you have like I don't know, like a severance package or something that the airline gave you when you left? Did you have a safety net or a financial cushion at all when you started real estate?
Yeah, I think I had saved up maybe a couple $1,000s at that time, and I used it to get my license. And then that was running short, so I sold my car and bought a different car. I bought a 1984 Subaru. I remember 1984 Subaru GL wagon, and in the Northwest, we all drive Subarus. It seems like, because we're all-wheel drive. Down in New Orleans, I don't know if you guys have Subarus, but this was an orchard car. So I had this like orchard car that the driver's side window wouldn't go down and the heat wouldn't turn off. So in the wintertime, it was awesome, but in the summertime, I was boiling in this car. So I sold, and so I had a little bit of a safety net there, a little bit of cushion. And what did it take me? It took me 9 months to sell my first home, right?
Wow. So what were you doing to supplement your income? Did you have a spouse that was helping you out, or what was the situation there at home?
Well, yeah. So my wife's a teacher, but with our student loans and our mortgage payment, some of the debt, it wasn't enough to cover, right? So we literally, no pun intended, had a runway, like a tech industry, right? You have a certain amount of runway before you go to plan B. And I went to plan B and C and D. I applied at the Air Force Reserve. Like, I was moments away from joining the military before I sold my first home, right? Wow. There are some other stories that I didn't told. I haven't told that to anybody. And what else did we do? Oh, one thing I did was I got really creative. What I noticed is the understanding of real estate was very minimal. People take online courses, but they don't really understand real estate. And the consumer definitely doesn't. And they don't know anything about their property rights, right? Their land use rights. And so we have a lot of land right here. And my broker, we used to do a lot of subdivisions. So I started writing letters to all of the property owners that met a certain criteria and told them that there were things they could do with their properties that they probably weren't aware of. And if they would like to find out what they could do to increase the value of their land through subdivision, land use, boundary line adjustments, they could reach out to me.
Interesting.
And so they would call me, and I just did this out of total desperation for money. I'd actually charged them per hour to do this. So I went to their house, did a consultation, and then I charged them $25 an hour as a consultant. And that actually gave me a little bit more money to go.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah. And it's what the mindset there was. I had no idea. Like, you ever get a new agent and like they're willing to do things that your experience aren't willing to do because they don't know any better.
Right.
I just didn't know any better, right? But I had to make something happen. And we're in this contingency-based business, right? We only get paid at closing. People are willing to pay you per hour. You just haven't been trained on how to ask for it, right? And actually provide that service. So, yeah, I was making billable hours probably 3-4 months into it. Not very much money. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough to pay the bills for a little bit longer to make another sale.
Now, where did that transaction come from 9 months into the business? Was that a family friend, sphere of influence? What happened there?
I didn't know anybody. No, my broker threw me a bone.
So
totally.
felt sorry for you and gave you a deal?
I was working hard. He could tell, and he knew it wasn't long before I was out.
So what were some of the things that really started to turn the corner for Nick's business, after that first sale? Because I'm assuming that your broker just didn't keep throwing you bones until you became an agent. Yeah.
That was it. No. So, I started building relationships with some of the property owners that I was writing letters to. So I wrote a ton of letters. I was super scared of the phone. My first day on the job, I told my broker I don't like sales, right? And he looked at me and goes, "You're in the wrong business."
Right.
And I was like, kind of a defiant person. I just said, well, I'm going to do this without selling. I'm going to show this guy I'm going to make money without selling.
How'd that go?
And so, it went really well. So what I did was I was actually selling, but I was figuring out how to sell without making phone calls, phone reluctance, right? I was scared of the phone. So what did I do? I started writing letters, tons of letters. And I got better and better writing letters, and some would work, some wouldn't work. And then I started working on a website, right? Got to get an IDX going, a property search website. I did a bootstrap version. There's a company in Chelan called Savato Technologies. They still do really good real estate websites. And I got one on their site, and then I just did a ton of Craigslist ads, and I got really good at responding by email really quickly. So I would get up at 6, 7, do Craigslist ads until 9 or 10. And when people started responding, I would immediately respond back by email. And so
did that evolve to picking up the phone at some point?
Oh yeah, totally. So I sold one home. The second year I sold about 12 homes.
Wow.
Right? Because I would write letters to expireds. I would write letters to FSBOs and could cancel listings. So I'm always writing letters. And I got really good at it. Like I had a printer that would take the envelope, shoot it through. I'd do I'd be licking the envelopes. My wife would help me. And then I'm comfortable face-to-face with people. About year 2, I came to terms with being a salesperson, right? And I realized that the people that were making more money than me were really good on the phone, right? And I'm an introverted person, naturally introverted. So yeah, that's where I came to terms with, I call it becoming a salesperson. Like I am a salesperson, right? Year 2, year 3. And just really started diving into and learning how to articulate my value over the phone. I really got into sales scripts, right? Started reaching out, trying to figure out what to say and who to say it to. That was about year 3. And so I went from 12 to 32 homes when I realized, wow, the phone is an amazing tool to convert to appointments, combined with emails and letters.
Yeah, so talk about the proofs in the pudding. That's a staggering jump. You start out with 1, then to 12, then to 32.
Right.
So what was the next step? What happened next?
The next step is just increasing the number of hours. To be honest, just increasing the number of hours I'm working, right? Because more opportunities are presenting themselves, or more opportunities are being seen by me, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm starting to scout them out. I get a couple more funnels of leads coming in, and went from 32 to like 62 the next year, right? 32, 62, something around there. And that was 2011. And I was just cranking it out, working from getting up earlier now. So instead of getting up at 7, I was getting up at 6. And instead of stopping work at 5, I was stopping work at 6 p.m., then 7 p.m., then 8 p.m., then 9 p.m., then 10 p.m. And to the point where it was sun up to sundown, I was working to sell 60 homes because I had literally no leverage at all. I had absolutely no leverage. I hadn't quite figured out that part of it yet. So I was just banging my head against the wall, just working more and more and more until I just about broke, man. It was absolutely crazy. My wife was going through a really hard time. She went through a kind of a trauma-based event. And honestly, I don't remember any of it. One of my best friends was around me at the time. We kind of joke about it, but very seriously joke about it. Like, Nick, you remember your wife was like going through some major trauma and you weren't even there. He goes, he came over to my house and just saw a blank stare. They used to just talk to me and just see a blank stare because I was just working so much, right? I was absolutely burned.
So you were doing 60 plus transactions with no assistant, no leverage.
No leverage at all, just working hard. And I was making tons of mistakes, right? So it was just willpower and, lots of ads. So a lot of direct response ads, just driving traffic to a website, go search for all the homes, unlock the MLS, priority access to homes, automatic foreclosure list, short sale list, map list. So any type of headline with a response to go to it for clicking to go to a website, I was doing it, right? And that was most of the time until I met My Outdesk. You're familiar with My Outdesk?
Yes.
Yeah. The Ramsey brothers back in I met him in 2011 and I was like, oh, I'll get an assistant and it'll be a virtual assistant. And it was in the Philippines. So I signed up. That was back in the day, it was like $3 an hour. And I trained a virtual assistant to do all of my Craigslist ads, all the ads I was doing, all the busy work I was doing. Mm-hmm. I would have them do that. And that was only like 1 or 2 hours. And they made you sign up for 20 hours or 40-hour VAs, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if it was a 20-hour VA, it was $5 an hour. If it was a 40-hour VA, it was $4 an hour. So I went to 40 hours, but I didn't have anything for them to do that I thought. Here's the thing with leverage is I've had a lot of agents say this is like, Nick, I would hire a VA, but I don't have enough stuff for them to do. And I'm like, that's how I felt too. I felt like I didn't have enough stuff for them to do. What you're saying is you don't have enough like time to train them on the things that you do, one, or you don't know how to properly delegate a task, which I didn't. And I'd be happy to talk about how I delegate tasks because I think it works really well. And, the other thing is you need to let go of some control. And so some of the questions I ask myself is like, what are all of the things this virtual assistant could do for me? And this works with an assistant too. What are all the things the assistant can do for me, right? And so it was beautiful because now I actually could sleep until 6 now or 7. And he actually got really, really good at ads and he was doing them better than I was. And then I was like, well, what else can you do? So I started picking up broker price opinions, BPOs. Mm-hmm. People probably don't pick those up anymore, but I don't know, maybe because I still needed money. So if he needed extra time, he'd do broker price opinions for $50. So I get paid $50. He could do it for probably in an hour and a half. So it cost me $8. So it was a good lesson in leverage and like labor efficiency. Like, oh, hire a guy for $8, make $50. Seems like a good deal.
Yeah. So how an agent's listening and they say, well, it seems like when Nick went from, 32 to over 60 plus transactions and was still doing all this work by himself, it sounds like that could have caused some serious problems with your marriage. So I don't want to take it that far. So how would you advise a new agent that they're ready to hire their first virtual assistant or assistant, just a regular assistant?
Yeah. How would I advise them? Well, I would say, I wouldn't necessarily be scared of the loss of income. And I think that's maybe the biggest thing people have a problem with is like, well, I can't afford it because it's going to cost me $30,000 a year. And they might be making 100 or even 90,000. And it's true. You're going to take a step back and your production may even go down. But in order for you to really break through that barrier to maintaining 60 a year or going to 100 a year, or in volume terms, working on higher price deals or bigger deals, you're going to need that assistant to take away all of that busy work, all the non-dollar productive activities. You're going to need them to do that for you because you're going to reach a point of saturation. And, a lot of people, they're just worried about their next deal. But I'm telling you, you got to be thinking ahead. What's the goal here? The goal is to make money and to build a life around it so that you can enjoy it. And, I was making all this money selling 60 homes, but I wasn't enjoying anything about life at all. And my marriage was crumbling. And I think you said it and you didn't, you picked up on it. So anyways, be confident that assistant is the key to you growing past those barriers. You're not going to do more than 60, 70. I'm telling you, maybe you are, maybe you're an exception to the rule and you can do 80, 90, 100 because you get a builder or something, but you're going to be working yourself to the bone and you're going to get bitter and eventually you're going to get burnt out. You're going to wonder, why is it worth it? Right. And everything's crumbling around you. So go for it and take the time to train them. I was just telling one of my ISAs, my director of ISAs hiring another ISA. And, he's wondering if this new ISA we've had her for three weeks. He's like, is she ever going to pick this up? I don't think she's cut out for it. Right. And I was telling him last night, I go, I've yet to hire a VA, an assistant, a transaction coordinator, any employee. I've yet to hire one that I didn't ask myself after about a month or two, I don't think they're going to get it. Like I remember going home to my wife, Emily, going, she's not going to get it. I think we got to let her go. And it turns out if I would have let him go, I would not have this amazing employee. Like you have to go through this like tipping point. So it's hard to explain. I think I see you're nodding your head. It's like, it's hard to explain. You have to make it through this training portion of your employee, and then the magic happens.
Right.
But you read these books and it's like, hire slow, fire fast. Well, what about when you fire too fast and you get rid of someone really good just because you didn't allow them to take the time to learn it?
Well, I think there's a lot of problems, and we've touched on a few of these, but people don't know how to delegate, or they're control freaks and they can't let go of these tasks. A big problem that I had in my business is I would hire these people and I wouldn't properly train them. So I would let them go, but I wasn't taking the time to transfer the skills. So it was just a big, massive waste of time. And in terms of when it's a good time to hire an assistant, I tend to advise our agents, if you start being mindful of the deals you're losing. So if you call that, for sale by owner, and they've listed with another agent, or it's expired, or it's a buyer lead and they've already purchased the home, if you start getting those phone calls and those responses on the phone calls, it's probably time to hire an assistant because leads are falling through the cracks. Opportunities are being missed, right?
Yes, absolutely. So let's go back to the assistant, but I want to talk about when I realized the other question, I guess, when do you realize you shouldn't work with buyers anymore? Right.
That's good.
When you get a buyer's agent, and it's the epiphany moment for me was one of my when my sphere of influence, past clients, friends, and family were using other agents.
Yes.
That told me something. Like, Nick, you are too busy and you aren't giving, well, one, you're too busy, but two, your service is going down. And I had to be really honest with myself. It's like, wow, because before that, it's like, nobody can do it as good as me. They can't do it as good as me. Total minds, like, that's such a limiting belief, right? It's such a limiting belief. The assistants you hire will be better at transactions than you. The listing coordinators you hire will be better at inputting listings. Your advertiser will be better. They're just going to be better than you eventually. And that's the goal, right? And what was I going to say about, so delegation, one quick thing on delegation for me is, you have to be able to, one, delegate the task by giving the assignment over and explaining it. And, a lot of my background is aviation, and that's the briefing. So you got to brief them. And you got to be really good at, or take the time to articulate that and take it slow, step by step. Most of your assistants are high S's, right? They're scared to make mistakes. They don't want to let you down. So you're going to delegate something to them, and then they're going to ask you questions. And you're going to say, and this is a conversation I had last night, was they're going to say, hey, how do you do that again? And you're going to go, I already told you that. Didn't you hear me? Didn't you write it down? Right? Wrong answer. They're asking you that because they just don't want to let you down. They want to make sure they don't mess up. Okay.
Right.
So you delegate the task, you give them a deadline, right? You then they need to report back, and you need to check in with them, and then you need to review their work. And that's pretty simple. The key is delegation. For a lot of people, they think they just hand it off and it's going to get done. You have to go back and get that full feedback loop and review it with them, right? And then uncover any mistakes, reward the things they did really well, and then help them understand how to fix it next time, and show them the big picture too. Like, yeah, these mistakes, no big deal. Oftentimes, when I hire a new person, it's like, I want you guys to make as many mistakes as you can. Like, don't fear making mistakes. We need to make mistakes every single day. Otherwise, we're not trying hard enough. The problem with that is, with my systems, it's like, okay, we need to reduce errors. So we'll cover that with it. But before you know it, you're going to have an assistant doing things perfectly, way better than you, right? Because they're going to have their training and their ability to do it.
So they got to make the time to invest in their people, and then you have to inspect what you expect from those people. You need to reward the behaviors that you want to encourage, and then you need to help them understand where they're kind of missing it or veering off track.
And you need to believe, and trust me on this, that the time you're taking to do this the right way is paying off. There's massive ROI in it. Because you're thinking about the whirlwind, everything else you're losing out on in the moment of training. Like, I should be calling people, or I got all these emails to check, and it's not true. You're going to have a massive ROI in this inspection of it and the training of it.
Well, and let's unpack that for a second, because the ROI is not going to be there if they don't use the time, if they don't use this leverage to focus on the proper priorities. Because I know a lot of people, they're kind of slacking off anyway. And then when they hire somebody to do the busy work, they're not reinvesting those hours into the super dollar productive activities. So, like, unpack for me your priority list of what agents out there. So in order to build up a business that affords them the luxury of hiring an assistant, and then once they get an assistant, like, what are your dollar productive activities you feel like agents should be focusing on, not only to survive, but to thrive in this business?
Oh, okay. Well, the dollar productive activities. So, I mean, for me, my career started taking off as I just focused on lead generating first. And I think, that's not a new thing. So maybe repetition is something good for this conference call, but it's like, you need to lead generate, you need to have opportunities. It doesn't necessarily, the leads don't have to be paid for, right? You don't have to just go out and take the easy route.
Right.
The easy route for me was not Zillow and Trillion paying for leads. It was, or even getting referrals. It was letters. It's actually really low and high ROI. Low cost, high ROI. I loved it. Craigslist, low cost, high ROI. Like Facebook ad, right? So Craigslist would be like a Facebook, getting good at Facebook right now, or Instagram, or a center of influence list, or networking. Like there's some really good low cost, no cost, expired stuff. I'd focus that every single day. Repeat every single day. Like that was non-negotiable for me for my career to take off was that lead generating portion of it. Now that can be delegated, right? That can be repeatable. I don't know how many letters I have written in my drive now that used to be on my hard drive that I can just easily, I would give you another example of like what can be delegated. I would sign every one of my letters in a blue pen, like a resume. So that was just part of my thing. Well, I delegated my signature, right? That was great. I was like, well, how am I going to have them do the letter if it's not my signature?
Right.
I was like, screw it. Sign my name, So you can delegate just about anything. So lead generate, number one. Number two, it has to be a direct response, at least early, low cost, no cost, get a direct response. And when they come in, you never give up on them. Like you would prospect and follow up relentlessly with your contact list. And, I was always writing down names and numbers on legal pads and entering them into an Excel spreadsheet. I didn't even have a fancy CRM. It was just Excel. It was actually just a Word document, bullet points. Every day I would print off my list and I would take it with me on the road. I'd make those phone calls. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Here's what I love about what we're discussing. It's very fundamental, but I love the evolution. I love the fact that you identify yourself as like just a naturally introverted person. The sales aspect of it was not for you, but you were able to figure out a way before you became or before you committed to becoming a salesperson. You were able to find a way to generate revenue in a much more passive way. But eventually, if there's an agent out there that's doing the same thing, if they're relying on text messages and emails and letters, very non-face-to-face stuff to generate their business, they're either going to have to get belly to belly more consistently, or they're going to have to get on the phone. That evolution has to take place.
Yeah, and I one thing I would caution people with, getting into the industry now is looking for the automation before you can even do it yourself, right? Like, imitate before you innovate kind of thing. Yeah. But, there's all these systems out there you can instantly, I'm not saying don't get them. Like, that'd be dumb not to have automation, right? But what I'm saying is you need to be able to write your own emails, right? You need to know what emails are being sent out on these automatic smart drips and these automatic text drip systems, and maybe create your own and take the time to do that, because those fundamentals paid off. So my ability to go from letters to phone, or letters to scripts to phone was easy for me. It took me a couple years to, do it the hard way and, try to avoid the phone. But the fact that I could write out a closing allowed me to close, because I'm not a closer naturally. I'm not a closer, but I could write a letter and with a call to action in 100 different ways. When I got on the phone, I was like, well, I'll just say that out loud. Right. And I don't think, those are some fundamentals that I didn't know I was sharpening my axe, but I really was. And, they can be repeatable. I mean, everything that we've done on the letter that I did on my letters to my scripts, is exactly what I train today to my agents.
Well, and the other thing too is this evolution has now taken you into the mega agent team realm. But I see a lot of people that are trying to form teams to do things that they're not willing to do. Like they want to hire the buyer's agent because they're not willing to get on the phone and consistently prospect.
Yeah.
And so I would just caution people that you don't want to, you definitely want to hire to your weakness, but you don't want to bring team members on to do things you're not willing to do yourself.
Yeah.
And you, having going through that, you're able to transfer those skills. What would somebody do if they hired a buyer's agent? The buyer's agent's like, well, what do I say? And you're like, well, I don't know. I don't like making calls either. That's in a very bad message.
No. It's like, well, when I was selling homes to buyers, this is exactly what I said. And this is what worked and this is what didn't work. And this is what you're probably going to say. And this is why you shouldn't say it that way. Like there's I've trained so many buyer's agents now. It's like, I know what they're going to say logically coming from the non-real estate world to the real estate world, and I know why it doesn't work. And, I want to give you an example of that. Criteria. And this is just our philosophy. We don't talk criteria with buyers until we get an appointment, unless they bring it up. And a criteria would be something along the lines of, hey, how many car garage do you want? Well, it's a wish list. 2 car. Hey, a 3 car if you can get it. Great. Awesome. Let me write that down. Anything else? Yeah. Can you give me a 4 car or a shop? Yeah. Wrong question to ask. So the question you might ask is, what kind of vehicles do you have? Right? Do you own a boat? What kind of parking requirements do you have? Or necessities? You learn different ways of asking questions, and maybe it's through rapport building. It takes you doing it on the phone. You're not going to hire a coach and then have that coach train your agents necessarily to the same level that you can with a coach, you talking to a coach and then getting that feedback and going through them. So, I eventually hired a coach in 2011, right? And that was the game changer from, 60 hours to leverage to building a team and growing that to we sold 101 homes our first year as a team. I had 2 buyer's agents. And then we did 199 homes, then 250, then 300, then 350, then we just did 410, right? So that's kind of the progression. And I've done all that with coaching since then. Now, coaching wasn't the magic pill, and I see people do this because I coach and consult too. And I think, Jason, this. It's like if you take that piece of information I just gave you, okay, Nick went from 60 to 100 to 400 with coaching. Mm-hmm. Well, let me just get coaching now at 10 homes. It'll fast track me. Well, it could. It could definitely fast track you, but maybe I probably should have got a coach earlier. But you can't get into coaching thinking that's just going to change you. You're going to have to implement everything they say. And so I'm going way off into coaching real quick, Jason, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, but I mean, the point you're making is people are hiring coaches before they're even coachable.
There you go. They're coachable. Now, I would say hire a coach as early as you can afford it. Number one, but you nailed it. You got to be coachable. I tell my coaches this, and I've had quite a few different coaches, right? I've hired some of the best in the industry and I tell them this, number one, because I know they've worked with a lot of agents that they say that they tell them to do stuff and they never do it, right? Because I've coached people and they say, what should I do, Nick? And I say, okay, this is what you should do this week. And then I get on the call with them next week and I go, how'd it go? Didn't do it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't know how you're making the coach feel. You're making the coach feel really bad, right? Yeah. Number one, they're insecure. They're thinking, well, maybe I'm not coaching. Maybe you're not a good coach. Maybe this person doesn't get it. Maybe they don't care. They get really frustrated, right? So when I get on with a new coach, I tell them, I say, okay, everything you tell me I will do to the T, exactly the way you say it. So you need to be very careful what you tell me to do because I'm going to do it exactly that way. And I'm going to have it done before the next week call, right? That's just, I'm going to implement. I'm an implementer. And so that was kind of my progression too. I just had an epiphany, was like, I'm not a salesperson. I'm a salesperson. I'm a team leader. And then I'm just an implementer. I'm just like, okay, if I see something, I do it, right? I just implement. And coaches are great for that because you can get into mastermind groups and you can see other people doing stuff. And you can implement quickly. And so I've been an implementer for the last 7 years. To go from 101 to 410 is just implementation all the time, like quickly. And then just being like owning that's who I am. And you can ask like even John Sheplick that we know mutually, ask him. I've said it to him a million times. I'm an implementer. So you want me to do something? I'll do it.
Well, it'd be like you going through this aviation training and then getting in the cockpit and going, yeah, I think I'm going to try it a different way. I mean, that would not go over very well.
Not at all. Not at all. In fact, in aviation, if you do anything outside of the procedure, you're a test pilot. And that's not a compliment.
Right.
That's not a compliment, right? That means you're going to need to find a new job, right? Or you're going to get someone very seriously injured, right?
Right.
Maybe people. So it's you don't want to reinvent the wheel, like they say, but at the same time, through that process of implementation all the time, like here's a script, do it exactly the way it says, and do it a ton of times. So there's skills and proficiency in the way I train it, skills and proficiency. And then you can go off of it, right? And then you can layer in different things, and because you're more aware. You're more aware of what's going on. You're not just reading. Now you're just saying, and now you're not just saying, but you're thinking ahead.
How many sales agents do you have now that allowed you to reach to this 410 homes sold in 2018?
So 2018, we had an average of 14 agents.
Let's go through the admin side of it. What did the admin look like? How many and what roles?
So we got a listing coordinator, and then we got an assistant listing coordinator. And the main listing coordinator also has other functions. She's the executive assistant and really office manager that oversees a lot of the HR stuff. And because I'm a broker owner too, I'm running there. So I got to sweep, make sure the office is clean, and I got to do, like the E-Myth. If you haven't read the E-Myth, you got to read the E-Myth. That was a game changer when I opened my company. So I got the executive assistant, and then I got one transaction coordinator, and then I have a listing assistant for me, and then I have one ISA. This is last year. Okay, that's the extent of our team.
Is your brokerage a team-based brokerage, or do you have independent agents as well?
It's a team-based brokerage.
Okay.
Yep. And I just added up our agents. We have 32 agents now.
32 agents now. So you went through like a huge recruiting.
Yeah, I doubled I've been recruiting.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's kind of like, so it's funny when I first got into team building, like in 2011, 2012-ish. I remember like Jake Kinder, if anyone on the show knows that, is like, I remember him telling me, he's like, no, go have a small team with high producers, right? Logically, that sounds amazing. Small team, high producers. That's what I want. Why have 10 agents doing 20 homes a piece when you can have 5 doing 40? Perfect.
Right.
Well, it's really hard to recruit and find and retain people doing 40, 50, 60, right? So, I think that was a limiting belief that, you can grow your team with the right systems and structures in place to where I'm at now. That's why I'm very comfortable adding agents now into our system.
That's interesting because, I know a lot of people that are in my circle, in my audience, they question team building because for the simple fact that a lot of team owners don't have the systems, don't have the processes, don't manage their team well. They don't provide enough leads. They're just starting a team because that's what the trend is in the industry right now, or whatever the case may be. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors. And so there are a lot of independent agents, I think, that are catching on. They're like, this is a bunch of bull crap. But if you run the team the right way, what has it done for you? Like, why stop at? Why not stop at 14 agents? Why have you, essentially more than doubled your agent count? Why not be Nick and several admins and keep all this money? Because a lot of the feedback I hear is, well, I want to keep my money. I don't want to give it away. So what is being a team owner meant for you and your business? And are you profitable? Are you making money? How's your life with your wife now? What's Nick's life look like? Yeah.
Well, that's a very good point because you'll never be more profitable. I'll never be more profitable than when I sold 60 homes, right? I made $250,000 or somewhere around there. And I probably kept, because I had a crazy split with my broker, I kept like almost everything. So I probably netted 220, it was like awesome. I barely had any marketing too.
Right.
I didn't have to pay an assistant either. So why buy an assistant? Why get an assistant? Well, my life was crumbling around, the walls were burning down, Jason. They were. It was miserable.
Right.
And you don't realize it at the time because you're just going after chasing the wrong targets. shooting the wrong targets. You really are. And so what it's done for me is, one, I'm still married to Emily. I have a beautiful wife. I have a 1-year-old daughter. She just turned 1 yesterday. But let me take it not just personally. So when I sold 101 homes, my income didn't really increase, but my responsibility did. Okay. And if you're going to shy away from responsibility, then don't start a team. Yeah. But there's some benefits to responsibility, right? Major benefits if you embrace responsibility. One is it's going to give you meaning, right? You're going to find meaning in responsibility because you're now responsible not just for yourself, but for other people. And it might sound like a burden. Well, now I have to find leads for my agents. No, you get to help train them on how to find leads like you did, right? And now you're helping more people. It's almost like a sacrifice. You're sacrificing your time. It gives you meaning. So I'm all about that search for meaning through responsibility. I don't want to get philosophical here, but as you grow, it gives you an opportunity to be more and more responsible for not yourself, but for other people. And that's going to be very fulfilling, right? It's going to make you a better person. It's going to improve your character, unless you let that damage you and, get resentful and all these other things, right? So as I grow, it's just an opportunity for me to help more people. And that sounds cliche, but I do it. It helps me give more responsibility. Now, the next level above that I kind of want to touch on, if you want to go back, let me know, is, sharing that responsibility with my team has been an epiphany, right? So as team owners, we're going to take on come join me and I'm going to have all the responsibility. You're not going to have to worry about leads. You're going to have to worry about anything. I'll even hire an ISA and you won't have to worry about prospecting. This was a huge mistake in team building for me, as I was the guy removing all responsibility from my agents. And it's almost like raising a child and not having them have any responsibility. What kind of person will they be when they grow up if you sheltered them from responsibility? Will they be hardworking? No. Will they be selfish? Yes. Really selfish, right? Will they work well with others? Probably not. So, an epiphany I had is like, no, we're in this together and we need to share the responsibility, right? You prospecting is good for you, but it's also good for Kim and Justine and everything like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So lead generating isn't just my responsibility, it's our responsibility together. And so you can kind of layer that in as you go and give your people meaning within your office. And so that's kind of like, I just absolutely adore that stuff. And it's just, that would fall under leadership. And so that's the other reason that I have a team, is I just absolutely love leadership because it's so dynamic. It's so hard to solve for. And you can continually grow under that umbrella of leadership. I don't think we've met a leader in this world that's perfect, right? That can't grow as a leader. So to me, that's super fun and gets me excited and, gets my juices flowing every day, right? Versus listing another home. Like if I would have stayed a top producer, I would have woke up today, thinking about how do I list another home? How do I sell another home? It'd be like Groundhog's Day for the rest of my life.
Right.
But building a team, it's been so dynamic and so fulfilling and exciting, right? At the same time, there's been times where I'm like, is it worth it? Am I enough? This is crazy. I'd be lying if I didn't have insecurities and want to quit multiple times, right? But that's just being human.
You would advise somebody to shy away from team building if they do not enjoy seeing or being a part of somebody else's success.
Yes, absolutely. And realizing you just can't give them the success, right? If you define success as getting an agent to make more money, you're going to be a losing battle because you can solve for that really quickly, right? So Jason, you're one of my team members and your goal is to make more money, and I define my success of my team members by the amount of money they make. Then one way to give you more money is to give you more split, right? Because that's going to come up eventually.
Right.
You're split. Well, I can solve for that. That works. But in the long run, you're going to lose, right? It's not going to be good for everybody. That won't be very responsible for you, Jason, to ask for more split when you know that it's not in the business model, right? So that's one way to handle it. As a cultural way, that's where this like responsibility within the organization can help you define your culture a little bit. Now, here's the beautiful thing about it. You can make more money. Like I make more money now, profit, than I don't think I could have done that as a single agent in my marketplace. I know the top single agents in the marketplace, and let's say I would beat them by 20% or even 50% or even 100%. Top agent in my marketplace, it wouldn't be near what I make now. It wouldn't.
Yeah, so you can't look at these agents that you bring on as dollar signs. I mean, as to what they're going to give you in terms of ROI. You have to look at them as investments. Like you're investing in their future, and by making their goals your goals, everybody wins.
When I hear investment into my agents, right, it's like, okay, logically or like analytically, it'd be like, okay, if I invest in you, Jason, I expect a return, ROI, because it's not an investment if I don't get money back, right? And that can be a trap too, because it's like you can get a little resentful with your agent. It's like when they're not paying off. What kind of relationship is that? And I think I talked about it. Remember, the mastermind was an economic mean versus a social mean. And if I see my agents only under an economic mean of like, okay, now you owe me, I gave you something. I gave you a lead. Now you owe me back a sale and a split. That's not the way it goes all the time. So if I give you something, I'm getting something back. If I teach you, Jason, I get something back. I get the opportunity to teach. And when I get an opportunity to teach, I get an opportunity to understand it at a greater level. Like I'm the best in my office at scripts because I teach them, right? So you have to find success and value within those different areas of a leader, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And as you grow, you're going to level up big time through this process. So if you're totally committed, you're going to level up as a person. I feel like I'm a better person than I was before I started a team. And I think I'm a better person than if I didn't start a team. Does that make sense?
It does. And what's the byproduct of this is an amazing office culture, correctly? I mean, you have amazing team culture.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And it's not without its challenges, right? I always love going to events and it's like, okay, our topic today is culture because we have the best culture in the world. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, you know, we do have a good culture and it's not, we have to handle disputes quickly and we got to be open communicators and there's a whole bunch of dynamics that go into the culture. But yeah, I love coming to work and I love teaching. I love coaching. I love training. I love helping people grow. And let's not get it twisted. I watch my bottom line like you wouldn't believe, right? Like, because I think there's a lot of teams out there that they got into teams for the wrong reason, thinking it was just gonna, getting a buyer's agent was gonna solve their problems. Right now, they don't have to make phone calls and they can make money. And what happens is they become a sales manager and they lose, they lose traction, they lose profit. They start buying leads as because the agents need them or they think they should buy them, and then it can be a downward spiral of starting a team that I've seen. I had an agent in our marketplace come up to me. She was so excited. She was like, "Hey, good news, Nick. I'm starting a team." I said, "Oh, good luck. I hope you make money." And I kind of said it tongue in cheek, like, are you sure you know what you're getting yourself into?
Right.
Like, are you sure this is going to make you more money? And, it can certainly make you more money. It's no doubt. And you can certainly control your schedule a lot better, right? The number one benefit of a buyer's agent is you're not showing homes. You're not driving people around on weekends. That's the number one benefit. It's not you're going to get a piece of their closings at all. Right. That's not the benefit of it. In my mind, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, the mindset also can't be, well, I'm freeing up this time. I don't have to drive buyers around on the weekends. So I'm freeing up this time to actually, focus on what I'm only good at. Like what only Nick can do. Like what are Nick's top priorities, Nick's specialties that he can't hire away. You can't hire a buyer's agent or a VA or somebody to step in and do Nick's job. So any leverage you get has to be redirected towards what your personal gifts and talents are, right?
Yeah, and just a higher level of leverage. So you're being leveraged so that you can operate, right? Now you need to operate on your highest and best use to move the needle, drive revenue, drive business, and each level I've gone up, it's just gone to, I need to drive revenue. I need to drive business to the company. I haven't got away from that very often. When I have got away from the mindset of growing the business and driving revenues and moving the needle, whatever, analogy, the saying I'm going to use, the mantra I'm going to use for that month or year, when I get away from that, our numbers go down, let's just be honest, when I leverage myself out and if I just went on vacation for 2 months, I'm not going to be driving the business.
Right. So how big are you going to grow this team? Are you going to grow it larger than 32 agents?
Yeah. So our goal is 50 agents by this time next year, and 125 agents in the next 4 years. It was a 5-year goal.
Wow.
So, and the agents isn't just to get an agent, right? They would be a good fit. They'd be capable of production. And I want to put that out there. It's like, I want willing learners. So that's kind of my criteria, willing learners. When I got into aviation, I didn't know a thing about flying, and my background, my pedigree, my mom, she left school at 14 or 15 years old, and my dad installed siding, right, for a small company. And so that's my pedigree. And then my flight training partners were like, Ivy League schools, sons of professors, D1 athletes. And I showed up and I was like, whoa, what am I doing here? Like, I am an imposter. They're going to figure me out. But you know what they did? This was really, really smart. This is Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. They're smart. They looked at personality, which I think the real estate industry adopted personality probably a decade ago, right? DISC tests and ASAs. But they looked at aptitude. And they looked at aptitude a couple different ways. One, they actually had some practical tests that you could take, hand-eye coordination, logic tests that you could take. And maybe we could figure that out in the real estate industry. And then they had part of the interview was really looking at their willingness to learn and their aptitude to pick stuff up, and that's what I look at, and I kind of have a pretty good gut for that now, a pretty good intuition, but it's just willing to learn. And I look at production. So when I recruit someone that's in production with another company, if they're producing at another company but not willing learners, they don't come over. So that's the number one thing I look for, because I can take a willing learner to 18, 20 homes in a year, like clockwork. And that's very profitable in my marketplace within our system. So.
All right. So now you may have been doing this for a while, but I know at least since the Mastermind, it came on my radar that you're a coach yourself, or you're launching a coaching business. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
It's a coaching, or one of the programs you have, it can actually help people develop a team, like a profitable team business. Is that right?
Yeah. So we created a program called Millionaire Team Mastery, and it is really designed. This is no holds barred, build a team to 7 figures profit, right? Don't build a team the goal wasn't to build a team to 1,000 units or 400 units, because you don't know how much they're bringing home. Mm-hmm. It's about the bottom line. So to dive into the bottom line of a business, you got to dive into really minimizing mistakes and errors. It's not sexy at all, right? Sexy, team building would be generate 1,000 leads a month, sell 400 homes, sell 500 homes, right? Golf 300 days a year, right? But this was, right, or whatever, It's funny, you see like people with successful teams, and maybe they have a huge bottom line, and they're like, they brag about things that they don't, they're bragging about how much time off they have. I'm always wondering, like, when's that gonna catch up with you? But right. You can have time off, totally. Like, I mountain bike. I mountain bike and ski. Mountain bike is my passion. I absolutely love it. So, besides my family, I mountain bike. I'm a family man. My husband, and I own a real estate company. That's who I am. But anyways, that's the program. It's about bottom line and reducing errors. So if you want to build a team, or you have a team and you want to reduce errors, which means your bottom line will increase, that's what's for you. And so that's our initial offering.
How do we get more information about this program or sign up for it? Where do we go?
Yeah, well, they should probably just start following me, Facebook friend me, look me up on Instagram. and then there'll be openings in the future. But right now we don't have another start date yet. So there'd have to be an announcement and something like that. So
you've got a program in motion right now.
Yes.
And how many spots per, cycle?
Probably 50 spots per cycle.
Wow. So how many do you have in the current program now?
It's 60 now. So 50. So 6-week program. But if we fill 10, 20, we do it, right? So, and if we do another one, it'll probably be in a couple months, maybe April or May. So just stay tuned for that.
And any plans to do one-on-one coaching in the future?
No plans. Do you do one-on-one coaching?
Well, I am trying to, hopefully, because I'm hosting this event, the Impact Agent Conference, and I'm gearing up right now to launch my coaching business.
Oh, sweet.
At the event. So, but really formulating my processes and what my programs are going to look like and how much I'm going to charge and all that stuff. So that's really like educating agents and helping them become successful, especially the ones like we talked about before we started the recording here about the agents that are really just kind of floundering. They can't break through a ceiling of achievement. They can't break through $3 million in production. They can't get rid of those part-time jobs. And, so those are the agents. I see way too many agents getting out of the business prematurely because nobody took the time to invest in them, to train them, to encourage them, to hold them accountable. So I just think we just hemorrhage talent because there's just not a good system. And I think, you focusing on implementation and quick implementation, that's what I see as the biggest, gunshot wound of our industry is that we have an implementation problem. Because you and I are sharing this information right now. There's so much information sharing. It's one of the things I love about our industry is that it's just very easy to find somebody who's willing to take the time to share their story with you. But we have a serious implementation gap in the real estate industry.
Yeah, we don't have an information problem, right?
Yes.
I mean, you may be ignoring information. Like if you want to learn how to prospect for sale by owners, you can get on YouTube and figure it out.
Right.
But you may be ignoring that fact that you have that at your fingertips. And then maybe you watch the video. So maybe you get enough, excitement to figure that out, but you don't implement. You don't go after it, right?
Right.
You don't find it out. Or maybe you try it once, you dabble in it and you don't go through it. And so, I think that's awesome that you're doing coaching because, for everyone that listens to your podcast and that's going to meet you, it's like, if you take anything away from this is hire a coach. And I say hire as soon as you can afford it and just tell them from the get-go, give them permission that to pile it on and that you're going to implement everything, right? And be careful what you tell them to do because you're going to do it. Like that's the one. And the reason I tell my coaches that is because I found coaches didn't push me hard enough. And that's just the way I was because I would implement it by the time, the end of the day, and I'm paying money. So I want to get the most possible. So that was just my mindset going into it. My first coach was $4,000 setup fee and then like $2,000 a month. I don't know what I was thinking.
Wow.
I hired like the best of the best. Yeah. I was like, whatever. Okay. I went all in and I was like, I told my wife, I was like, I'm thinking about hiring a coach. And she's like, okay, that's a great idea. And she's like, well, how much did that cost? I said, well, more than you make in a month for sure.
More than a mortgage payment.
Yeah. Like, is that a good idea? I go, well, I promise I'll implement, right? Like, let's do it. Right. And the other thing that I would say too is commit to a year. This has just worked for me. Mm-hmm. Is I see people dabble in coaching, they dabble in marketing, they dabble in they try. Let me give it a try. Let me see how it worked, and I can always cancel, right? Because you can cancel almost anything, right? You can cancel coaching, you can cancel your CRM, you can cancel your marketing program, but you'll never see the benefits if you don't stick it out. And that's just been me personally. And so most of my coaching I've stuck with for at least a year, if not ended up being 2 years. And when I do marketing, when I buy marketing, I buy marketing in big time blocks. So give you an example. If you go to a billboard company, and I don't recommend people get into billboards, okay, right away. Definitely not right away. Like you're going to have to, extinguish many, many, many different opportunities with higher ROIs than billboards. But I do have billboards, right? But I've also, I'm trying to find I'm at the point, I'm trying to improve myself by like less than 1%. If you buy, that person's a salesperson, right? And they also have people cancel the billboards all the time, right? And so if you commit to them, they'll give you massive discounts, right? And a discount is value added to you. So the inverse of that, so my first time I bought billboards, he thought I was going to buy one billboard. And I said, no. I go, no, Jason, how many billboards do you have available? And he's like, well, I got 6. I go, so what if I bought all 6 for a year? I'm just expanding his horizons because he's trying to sell me one. And then I'm going to go, how much for all of them for a year?
Right.
What can you do for me? Well, what I've done is I've expanded his mind, number one. Number two, he's thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to give this guy a huge discount, right? So he gave me a price. Okay. So now I got a price that was like, in my marketplace, it was $660 a billboard or $700 a billboard per month. I got billboards for under $300. It was $270 a month.
Wow.
For six. No realtor had ever put a billboard up in my marketplace. And then I put up 6 at once, right? I got so much like publicity out of that versus getting one at $700. So I spent $1,800 versus $700, but the impact was massive.
Right.
And so I don't know if that's a good analogy, but commit. I'm not talking about commitment here. I'm just saying don't stop things. People stop way too early. Like you're saying, agents get out of the industry too early. They stop expired letters too early. They stop FSBO letters too early. They stop prospecting early. They get off the conversation too early. They do everything too early, right? Like you gotta go all the way through.
I could not agree more.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I don't know how to go on that tangent, but that's where it's at.
But it's solid gold. I mean, it's absolutely correct that most agents stop on the eve of a great success, and it's all about commitment and consistency. But we're out of time. I know you were super busy, so this time that you've given my audience is a big gift. Is there a website that people can go to just to check out your business and the market you serve?
Yeah, so Nick McLean, my company's name is Nick McLean Real Estate Group. And so if you want to duplicate some of our marketing, we're doing a ton of social media, Facebook stuff. Nick McLean Real Estate Group, McLean Coaching, MCLEAN coaching. You can follow me there. Real Estate Greatness. So I have a business building tip website, Real Estate Greatness. Great one to fit. Yeah, and I posted something there today. So that's just good tidbits and tips. And I'm just in the giving mindset, abundance mindset right now. So I really appreciate the opportunity, Jason, to talk to your audience because it's all about giving. And I just know it's going to pay off in the long run. Well,
thank you so much for your time. You've been an amazing guest for the Impact Agent Podcast. And I would love to have you back on when you get to, let's see, what's the next stop before you go into 50 agents? So when you get to 50 agents, I'd love to revisit this conversation and see what the growing pains have been and how you've overcome. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jason. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Impact Agent Podcast. If you liked the show and got something out of it, please like the Impact Agent Podcast on Facebook and rate and review the show on iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts. This really helps us grow the show and helps other agents find it. Please share it with your friends and coworkers as well. Want us to deliver the show to you via email every week? Then email me at jason@impactagentuniversity.com and we'll send you the show every week. Please let us know what you think about the show, what you like, what you don't, or possibly make a suggestion about a topic you want to hear. Email me at jason@impactagentuniversity.com or leave us a message on Facebook at Impact Agent Podcast. Until next week, everybody be productive, safe, and happy, and always keep learning. This podcast is produced by Johnny Gwynn at Deep Rod Studios in Mobile, Alabama, and is paid for and powered by ImpactAgentUniversity.com.